Right now, you're being one of two men. The first one is the doubtful man. This is a man who's walking on eggshells, obsessed with his wife's reaction, doubting if it's too late, on that hope roller coaster where one day you feel good, the another day you're in the depths of hell. The second one is the intentional man. This is a man who knows exactly what he wants, knows he can do it, and is moved off this roller coaster and is on a journey of climbing the mountain of rebuilding his marriage. Now, if you're being the doubtful man, this course is going to show you how to switch over to the intentional man. And this is going to happen very quickly if you do the work. If you are being an intentional man already, you probably reached a plateau, and this is going to show you how to bust through that plateau so you can actually save your marriage. And this isn't based on theory. This has been battle tested in hundreds and hundreds of the worst cases. We're talking 10-year affairs. We're talking about legal already filed. We're talking about her living with another man. This has been tested. This is not theory. This is the culmination of years and years of work. And it's gotten to the point where 3 out of 4 situations that we take on and take through this type of work, we see are able to turn it around. So I say this so you know if you commit and you do this, you will get the results. But it's up to you to do the work. So let's dig in. In part 1, we're going to be talking about releasing the fear. In part 2, we're going to be talking about going from victim to creator. In part 3, we're going to be talking about doubting if you can do this to knowing you can do this. In part 4, we're going to be talking about committing to excellence, which is the key to not just changing your marriage, but changing your life. And if you hang around with me till the end, I'm going to show you exactly step by step what you need to do to go save your marriage. And it's not what you think. All right, let's start with part 1. And this is around releasing the fear. And the big thing here is that the truth will set you free. Free from the fear, free from the worry, free from the concern is embracing the truth. So that's what we're going to be focusing on right now, is getting to the truth of the situation. Now, the first truth is if you need your wife, you will lose your wife. What I mean here is neediness is the most unattractive quality. It is a repelling energy. Neediness is fueled by desperation, and your wife does not want to come back to a desperate man. She wants to come back to a man who she believes her needs can be met by. This is key. And it's this desperation that leads to the begging, the pleading, the collapsing, the feeling like a shell of yourself. And it doesn't work. And the worst thing about it, let's say even if it does get her initially back, that desperation, as soon as it runs out, your motivation to continue growing and developing and making sure this never happens again goes out the window. So you can't rely on desperation. You can't be fueled by the need to have your wife. You have to switch over to wanting, not needing. Because until you make this shift, she will feel the desperate energy. She will know where it's coming from, and she won't trust anything that you do. If your wife is saying, I don't trust your change it's because they're coming from a place of desperation, and she can feel it. And she knows as soon as that desperation is gone, so goes the changes. And she will feel like you're trapping her. So the shift we have to make is to go from needing her to not needing her, but wanting her. When you make this shift, everything changes. And the biggest thing that blocks men from doing this is the fear. It's the fear of what's going to happen if they lose their wife. So let's dig into that. And after working with thousands of men, what I've realized is that there are 5 fears that really control the desperation. Fear number 1 is losing your wife. That's fear of failure, fear of losing your best friend, her leaving, being with another man, all those types of things. Fear number 2 is being alone forever, not being able to find love again. Fear number 3 are the kids. Growing up in a broken home, being a part-time father, another man, raising your children. Fear number 4 is the finances and everything that comes along with that, retirement accounts, home, supporting 2 households, all those things. And fear number 5 is damnation, right? Breaking your agreements with God, being punished, being ostracized from the church, things like that. Now, these are terrible situations to go through. I'm not going to make light of them. I'm not going to make it sound like it's going to be an enjoyable thing to walk through. But what I need you to know is you will be okay. You will not die from this, right? And I'm actually going to give you in the workbook below that goes with this course. So make sure you go grab that workbook. It's a quick link, free. Go grab it. It actually has a lot of exercises and tools to support you through everything I'm teaching, and it will 10x your results as opposed to just sitting here watching, listening to me. So make sure you grab that workbook. Now, because some of you won't, I'm going to walk through this anyways. And the thing I want you to realize is, like, let's say you lose your wife. Okay, that sucks, but that creates space for someone even better to come in. If you become better in the process, you will attract your wife back or someone better. And statistically speaking, within the next 3 years, you will be remarried again, right? Most men are remarried in 3 to 4 years. So that just goes to show you will not be alone forever. And yes, your kids will be impacted by this. There's no sugarcoating that. And the quality of man that you show up as, the quality of father you show up, the harmony you create in the family during this time will have a very significant impact on how they grow up, what their view of relationships are. And if you can show being a positive, healthy man looks like, that will be far more impactful than keeping a broken marriage together longer. So the finances, yeah, it'll be a blow, right? And that's going to suck, and it's going to take time to rebuild, but you can rebuild, right? Just like you got to where you are, you can get better. As men, our value and ability to create more wealth for ourselves increases as we get older. So as long as you're investing into yourself and your career, your ability to make more will skyrocket as you get older. So you are actually in better position to rebuild your wealth. And then lastly, I don't know of a single faith that doesn't preach forgiveness, that will eternally damn you for being divorced and the marriage ending, right? You may have to go through some hoops depending on your faith, but the forgiveness is always there. Redemption is always available to you. So you will be okay. And I really want to stress upon this. I'm not making light of it. It will suck. It will be hard to go through, but you will be okay. And if you need to see this for yourself, feel this for yourself, inside the workbook, there's an exercise called playing the movie out. And this is an incredibly powerful technique to diffuse those catastrophic feelings and thoughts that are going on in your head and allow you to realize and get a felt experience of it's going to be okay. I will be okay. And if you do that, I promise you, you will feel better and you will start shifting from the need to the wanting. So this whole section is about finding the truth, because the truth will set you free. The truth will shift you from needing to wanting. And there's a very important question that I have to ask you. And this question will dictate the trajectory of you saving your marriage. And that question is, do you want your wife, or are you just afraid of losing your wife? What I mean is, at the end of this road, she says yes. She says, okay, let's try it again. You build the marriage back up to a good place. Do you still want to be with that woman? Is this a woman you actually truly want to spend the rest of your life with? Because I find there's enough guys worth talking about this that they don't actually want their wife. They don't actually want to be with their wife. They are just so impacted at the thought of losing her that they're doing everything. They're scrambling for something that they don't actually want, or they're ambiguous about it. They're indecisive. They're like, I don't know. And this is so key, because for this to be sustainable, lasting change, to really show her that this is worth trying again, you have to be crystal clear that you want this woman. You really want this woman. You want her for the rest of your life, because anything less than that will not get you there. And the big caveat here is, I'm not talking about the woman that she's showing up as today, because frankly, the woman she's showing up today is probably a monster, and it's a monster of your creation. It's been her response to how you have been showing up. So if you're judging it based off of that, that's not fair. I want you to look further back to when you guys are in a good place, not necessarily your best place, but just a good place. Is that somebody you really want to spend the rest of your life with? And if your answer is anything less than yes, you're going to have to do some work. And if your answer is no, get a divorce. Let this play out. Because why? Why would you work so hard to get back something you don't want? That makes no sense, and you will falter. And the situation will repeat itself, or you'll end up leaving later. So you have to be crystal clear that you want your wife back. So what I find is most men fall into the category of both. They both don't want to lose their wife and they also really want her. And that's okay. That's what this course is really for. Or if you know with absolute certainty that, yes, I want this woman, this is going to strengthen that for you as well. And now in the workbook below, I'm also going to give you access to my fear releasing protocol. And this is going to be a simple process that really lets you release that fear to help you shift from that needing to wanting, going to a place of clarity, feeling free to go be the man that you need to be. All that's in the workbook below. Go ahead and grab it and let's move on to the next section. All right, in this section, we're gonna be talking about going from victim to creator. And this is a key mindset shift. And what we're really talking about is going from blaming to taking responsibility for the situation. And until you do this, you cannot change anything. You cannot save your marriage. You cannot open her back up. You cannot bring the wall down. You can't do anything until you make this shift. And the first thing you have to understand is that beliefs shape our reality. What you believe is what you experience. And you know this well because your wife right now has so many beliefs about you and who you are. And those beliefs are shaping how she sees you. No matter what changes you're making, no matter what you do differently, no matter how you show up, she still sees you through those beliefs. That's the power of beliefs. Both fortunate and unfortunate thing is that beliefs don't have to be true to have this effect, right? How many things have you believed in the past? Santa, right? As kids, we believe there's a Santa, and that shapes how excited we get about Christmas. That shapes the things that we do, like the naughty and nice list. But Santa isn't real. But it still impacts our reality and how we show up and how we see things. So beliefs don't have to be real to be powerful. The way I see it is beliefs only serve two purposes. One is to empower you, to move you into being more the man you want to be, help you create the things that you want, help you show up better. Or they disempower you. They make you feel smaller. They make you feel like you have less control. They make you feel like you're weak. You can't do the things that you want to do. And if a belief is empowering, it's good. If it's disempowering, it's bad, regardless of if it's real or not. So what I'm going to talk to you about is how do you shift from the disempowering beliefs to the empowering beliefs. And if you can do this, I promise you it will change everything. So let's take a deep dive into this because I really need you to understand what this shift looks like and what's the cost of not making this change and how it's actually silently sabotaging your marriage and your efforts to save your marriage right now. So we have the beliefs here, and I look at it like it's on a spectrum, right? This is like a 0-1 binary thing. So when we talk about disempowering beliefs, what are we talking about? Is it too late? We talk about, why is she doing this? We say, why won't she give me a chance? We say, why won't she trust? And there's probably a whole lot, well, there's definitely a whole lot of other things that we're saying, but these are the disempowering beliefs. Why are they disempowering? Because it's taking the control from yourself over to her. Some version of, why is she doing this to me, right? I've made the change. The light bulb has switched for me. Why won't she allow me to show up for her? It's about her, so that she is doing something to you. You are out of control. She is doing it to you. That is why it's disempowering, because you don't have any control over this. Now, what we call somebody who is fully disempowered and is fully blaming someone else, we call that person a victim. That person is a victim. The definition of victim is somebody is doing something to you. And if we go to the extreme side of victimhood, the extreme side is, I control nothing. Everybody else is doing things to me. I am not able to do anything on my own. That is the full state of disempowerment. And a victim, by definition, blames. And this is why most of you are covertly blaming your wife for this situation and why she's so defensive when you interact with her. Because underneath all this is actually blame, right? When you say, why are you doing this to the kids? You're blaming her for making this decision, right? Why won't you give me another chance? Why won't you push off the divorce? You're saying you have control over this. Why won't you make a different choice? This is your fault we're in this situation. That is blame. And that is an attacking energy, and that causes her to be defensive. So when you are in a state of victimhood, you are fully disempowered. You're not able to show up. You're going to feel stress. You're going to feel in despair. You're going to feel hopeless. And it's because you're allowing yourself to believe these things. And fundamentally, that this is not in your control, that she is doing this to you, that you have no power here. Now, when we look at empowering beliefs, right, this is, I can change. I believe there's a chance. She wants me back. She's just hurt. Right? Anything that makes you feel like, okay, I can do this. Like, I can become a better man. It can be, I have to change either way. Whatever. Anything that empowers you to being a better man, right? I created this, I can fix it, right? Those are empowering beliefs. And what we call somebody who is full of empowerment, who believes they are in control of the situation and they can do this, we call that person a creator. Because a creator takes something and turns it into something else. That is what creation is. And by doing this, by accepting your control on the situation and your contributions for the situation, we'll go into a little bit more, you are stepping into the role of a creator. And by definition, a creator is the most empowered person, right? Is the fully empowered version. So we have full victim is fully disempowered. We have a creator is fully empowered. And by going to this level, by going from victim to creator, you are literally putting yourself into a state of power, and that will support you. That will allow you to truly show up regardless of the situation, regardless of what's happening. That will allow you to inspire your wife into opening back up into this marriage. Now, what's the mechanism that allows you to make this transition from victim to creator? Well, it's very simple. It's called responsibility. And what this means is I contributed to this situation, and it's actively recognizing how you contributed to this situation. And by contributing, that makes you more of a creator. How did I co-create this situation? And the degree to which you can accept responsibility for this situation, what you're triggering to yourself is you're saying that I have the power to create this problem. And if I have the power to create the problem, I have the power to create the solution. And that puts you in the best place to actually fix your marriage. It's by taking responsibility, you're taking on the ownership, you're taking on more power, you're allowing yourself to go into a place of being a creator of the problem. And if you can create the problem, you can create the solution. That is the power of responsibility. That is what allows you to do this. So one thing we have to make clear here is that responsibility does not equal fault, right? So your wife has her own trauma, her own baggage, her own contributions to the situation. She's not faultless in this. And maybe you contribute to a lot of it, maybe you didn't, depending on your situation. But you need to understand that most men come to me saying they want to be the leader in the marriage. And being the leader means you take responsibility for the outcomes and ultimately everything that happens within the marriage. And a lot of men say they want to lead, but they're not really willing to accept that role and the weight that comes with that role. Because think of an owner of a company. If the company tanks, you look towards him. You don't look towards the employees. You don't look towards the customer. You look towards him because he was a leader. He's the one who said, hey, I got this. I will take this to wherever we're trying to go. It's the same for your marriage. If you want to be the leader, you have to take ownership for the outcome and everything inside the marriage. And most men aren't really willing to take on this. They immediately shift to a conversation about how unfair this is. So responsibility doesn't equal fault. It equals ownership. And ownership equals leadership. So if you're sitting here saying your wife won't let you lead, it's probably because you aren't really willing to take the degree of responsibility for things that's required for her to let you lead, right? That's the issue that I find happening over and over and over and over again in men. And if you want to lead your marriage back to a place of reconciliation, then you have to take ownership of everything that's happening into this, acknowledge your contributions, and take responsibility for everything that got you guys to where you're at. Because once again, that takes you back to a place of being a creator, that puts you back into the greatest place of personal power, empowerment, And it sets you up to actually go create that future of you and your wife being together and having a happy, healthy family. That's how this works. And it's not sexy. It's not fun. It probably makes you feel bad to think about and go through this process, but it works. And if you go into the workbook, you will see a series of questions that you get to go through that will help you take on and bring greater responsibility. It's the same thing I take my clients through, and it's powerful if you let it. It will feel bad, but it will be a powerful transformation. Open your eyes so that you can truly shift from victim to creator. Now we're going to get into part 3, and this is going from doubting to knowing. From doubting you can save your marriage to knowing you can save your marriage. And if you can understand this, you can finally escape the hope roller coaster. You can walk through your day with a calm confidence that you can do this. And this will change everything. And I find most guys are in a reactionary place. They're being reactive to how she's showing up that day. They're being reactive to how they're feeling. They're being reactive to what they believe can happen. They're being reactive to if they think there's a chance. And this reactivity, it just has you going up and down, not knowing where your headspace is going to be on any given day. And that ruins consistency, because so much of saving your marriage relies on you being consistent. And this will, as I'm sure if you're watching this, you already know, just messes up everything. Messes up your ability, or you're spending so much time forcing on not reacting that you're missing opportunities, you're missing the ability, or you're missing out on so many other things, time with your children, work, whatever. So what I'm going to do is first walk you through hope and the actual science behind hope. Because if you can understand this, you can then take control of it instead of being a slave to it. So we're going to get through there, and then I'm going to show you how to level up so that your hope evolves into knowing exactly step by step what you have to do to create that evolution. So let's dig in. All right, so what is hope? And this comes directly from hope theory, which comes from positive psychology. And what they found is that hope requires 3 things. And if you are missing any of these things, you will not have hope. The first thing is a goal. You have to have a goal you're striving for. That's pretty obvious. I think you already knew that piece. Next is you have to have a pathway to the goal. There has to be some way for you to get from where you are to where you want to be. And 3, you need what they call autonomy, meaning you have to believe that you can actually do the things required, that the pathway requires to get to the goal. So let's say that you want to be a millionaire, right? You want to be a millionaire. So the goal is $1 million, right? There's the goal. And here you are. Now, if you have a pathway to that, and I'm just going to come up with something random. Let's say you want to be a developer at Google. And, developer at Google makes, say, like $250,000. So, if you're making that and you did that for 10 years, you could be a millionaire if you saved really well. Okay. And you have the skills, like you have developer skills, or you believe you can learn to develop the skills you need to be a developer at Google. Let's say. So if you have a goal, check. If you have a pathway, check. And you have the belief that you can become a developer at Google, you will have hope that you can become a millionaire. Very straightforward. Now, here's where things get really interesting. If any one of these are missing, the hope goes away. So if you are going down the pathway of developer at Google, you have $1 million, your goal is $1 million, but you don't believe you can code or become a developer, or you start the process of learning to develop and you're realizing that, oh, this isn't a thing for me. Well, now you're missing a piece and you lose hope because that pathway is no longer accessible to you. So there's no way for you to become a millionaire. Now you have no hope. Or let's say that's not the route you go, and instead you find out Google goes away. Like Google crashes, or no longer hiring developers from now forever. AI has changed everything and that's not happening. Well, now you have no pathway to $1 million and now you feel hopeless. So, or you decide that, you know what, I don't even really want $1 million. I don't know what I want. I don't know what my goals are or anything. You lose that. then you become hopeless from there. So if you lose any one of these things, you lose hope. Now, and I'm giving you the overall theory here so you can understand. You're probably already starting to connect some dots as I'm going through this. And then I'm going to show you exactly how it applies to your situation. So that's what it looks like when you lose hope. Now, how do we turn this hope into knowingness? So we have you here. We have the path. We have $1 million. Okay, we have Dev at Google. Well, let's say that, let's start from the pathway. That's usually the easiest way, right? Let's start from the pathway. So instead of developer at Google, maybe you can also say, okay, I can do Facebook. I can do, what are some other companies? Apple. I can do NVIDIA. Like there's all these companies. And maybe come a list of 100 companies you can develop, be a developer at, who pay high, who's wages for this. Okay. Well, now you have 100 pathways that you can go. The more pathways you have, the more confidence you will have. Now, that's going that way. Let's say instead of just having a developer at Google, maybe you also have, well, I can become a biz owner, or I can become a consultant, or I can create all these other different career path trajectories. I can go real estate investing, right? I have all these other ways that can get me here. Well, if you have a ton of different pathways to that goal, it's going to go from hopeful to like, oh, I know I can do this. I just have to pick one, but there's so many available. I know at least one of them will work. This will work. I can do this. It goes from hope to knowing, right? So this is an example on the pathway. You can do the same thing for all of these, but I think you get it. So what we're going to do is take you down the same journey so that you can go from hope to knowing. And inside the workbook is really going to walk you through systematically, step by step, how to do this. Okay, now let's talk about hope and marriage crisis and the common mistakes men are making that keep them on this roller coaster. So let's first start talking about with the goal. Well, most guys that I talk to's goal, either they want to say it or they're trying to hide it, but it really is they want to win their wife back, which is seemingly okay, right? Obviously, it's like, yeah, I want my wife back. That makes sense. But the danger here is it's based on something external that is not fully within your control, right? She ultimately has to make the choice of being with you. You can influence, you can inspire, but you don't have any real control over that. Or the degree of control you have is much lower. Like I said, all you can do is inspire and influence. So there's a problem there. And because it's external, you're looking to her reactions as a benchmark of, are you getting close to that goal? And then whenever you get negative feedback, it spirals you. Or if you end up getting doubtful, do you even want this person? Which then messes up the goal, which then also messes up your hope. So having the goal being outside of yourself with her creates problems. So now let's talk about the pathway. And what I find happens is most guys are going into panic learning, where you're trying to consume all the things. You're trying to figure it out. It's probably why you're watching this video. What do I do? How do I do this? What are some things I can try? How do I get her to change her mind? Is it too late? Help me, is where they're at. And this panic learning leads to information overload, which then leads to overwhelm. And that takes you two different routes. Either you start experimenting or you procrastinate. Both completely obvious and reasonable responses to this situation. But when you're experimenting, what ends up happening, you test a little bit here, you test a little bit there. Maybe this works, maybe this doesn't. But the ones that go wrong completely erase the things that went right, and you keep feeling like you're starting over or she's getting further and further away. And that doesn't work because you're just trying to figure out which tactics you're hearing works, how to do this, how to do that. Or it all feels so daunting. It all feels like, I don't know how I even do that. What does this look like? This person is telling me to do this, but not actually telling me how, right? Like, what does this look like? And you don't know what to do and you stall. Either one of those happen. And as that's happening, you're systematically both building new pathways. So you get a new piece of information. It's like, oh, that makes sense. I could see that working. It doesn't. You lose that pathway. Now you're down on the roller coaster. Or you hear this thing that says, oh, this is the problem, but you're like, I don't know how to fix that problem. So you see a pathway, but you can't do it. So that also brings you back down. And that's why you're going up and down. And then the last one, when we start talking about autonomy, there's a lot that goes here. Because remember, this is your belief whether you can do this or not. And there's about 4 things that I see that really gets in the way for guys. The first one is his head is full of ants. Ants are automatic negative thoughts, right? These are all your conditioning, your beliefs about what these things mean, right? It's, well, I can't do this, or I have problems, or I have anger issues, or I don't know, I wasn't trained how to do this. I grew up in this environment. They never showed me this. All these negative thoughts about yourself and what you're capable of. And you have to stomp out the ants. Next is what she's telling you. So let's say her words. Because she's probably telling you, I'm done. What, you're wasting your time. Stop doing this. None of your changes are working. All these things that are systematically breaking you down and tearing away your hope and eliminating these pathways and eliminating your belief that you can do this. This is, unfortunately, the worst possible environment to experiment and test things in. I should have said this earlier, but I'm saying it now. Because you think about, for somebody to learn and grow, the ideal environment is they have the support, they have positive feedback when they're trying new things, they have a safe environment to try those things in, and they have positive encouragement about it. You have none of those things. Oh, and they have time. Don't forget time, right? And you have none of those things, right? You're probably doing this on your own. You're feeling crushed for time. You're feeling like any day she can walk away. When you try something that doesn't work, you get blasted and penalized, not just for what's happening now, but for all the mistakes of the past too, right? I'm winging this at this exact moment, so I don't even remember what I was saying before. But this is like the worst possible environment that you could ever be testing and experimenting in. You do not want to use this time to experiment. It just makes, you're setting yourself up for the most difficult journey possible. And a lot of that, and coming full circle back to this, is because of, her words, right? She's telling you this is a big part of it. And next is going to be being up on yourself. And as men, we're very hard on ourselves. We carry a lot. It's very easy for us to look at the situation and just beat the shit out of ourselves. And that happens. But when we're doing that, instead of building ourselves up, we're tearing ourselves down, which is bringing down our belief that we can actually do this. And last is you see nothing but failures around. You see plenty of people gotten divorced. You're looking online, you're hearing these horror stories. You're seeing far more examples of failure than winning. And when you're looking at that, you can't help but think that that's probably going to be me, right? If they couldn't do it, what makes me think I can really do it? That's a hard space to be in. So these are the reasons why you're on a hope roller coaster. And it's so very important that you understand that if you don't shift these things, you will stay on that roller coaster. So let's talk about how to actually make these shifts and how to go from doubting to knowing. So what we're going to do here is let's look at each one. So we had an external goal before. Now we need an internal goal. We need to go from external to internal. An internal goal is being the man you want to be, showing up as a man who would inspire the person you want to be with to be there. You can go all day, showing up for your kids, breaking generational cycles, creating a legacy, all these things that are more within your control. Inside the workbook, I'm going to help you find an internal goal for yourself, one that really motivates you, that will still be there regardless of how she's showing up that day. Because your goal is not her reactions, your goal is internal. That shifts things, and that brings you to a place of knowing versus doubting. Next, let's talk about the pathway. So with the pathways, we talked about tactics and experimenting. And I talked to you about how that's a terrible environment to experiment in. You need to shift from tactics to a plan. And what is a plan? A plan is a sequence. It's an order of events to do things in. Versus just dabbling and throwing out here and here, you're creating a plan that will take you exactly in order, in the right sequence to get you the goal that you want. Right? Instead of experimenting, you have a order, a sequence, a step-by-step plan to get you to your goal. So having a plan is incredibly important. So what are you looking for in a plan? You want something that's proven, first and foremost. You want something that has shown that it can get you the goal, right? It's proven that it can get you the goal. It's gotten many other people in your situation the same goal. Like, that's what you're looking for. It needs to include nuances. And by nuances, all I'm saying is it needs to factor in your situation and all the specific details. Your background, her background, the environment that you guys currently living in, financial situations, parental situations, children situations, blended families, first marriage, second marriage, all those. Like, you want it to factor in all those unique variables. The more variables it has factored into the plan, the more likely it will succeed for you. And it's important that it can succeed, but you want to make sure it can succeed for you. That's very important. And then the last piece is you can and want to follow it. This is really big because I've had a lot of guys come to me saying, yeah, there's some things that I think could work, or I talked to this person and they told me that to do this, but that's not how I want to do this, right? That's not what I want to do. I hear this a lot around like no contact and things like that. It's like, it's a plan and maybe it would work, but it's not what they want to do. Or they don't believe they can do that specific thing because of whatever your situation is. So it's really important you both can and want to follow that plan. If you don't feel like you want to follow that plan, you're not going to do it. I don't care how great the plan is. You're not going to do it. So it's useless. So I'd rather you have a mediocre plan that you're willing and able and wanting to do versus the best plan in the world that you're not going to do. It just makes sense. So those are pathways. Now let's dive into autonomy, right? And there's 3 things we're going to focus on here. First, we have to stomp out the ants. We got to stop out those automatic negative thoughts. And inside the workbook, I'm going to give you my tool for reframing. And reframing, simply put, is taking your perception, your perspective, the way you're interpreting what's happening, right? So when she says, hey, I want to leave, instead of you looking at it as like, I'm about to lose her, I'm a piece of shit, I can't believe everything's falling apart, you hear it as like, oh, she's in so much pain that she doesn't know what to do. And the only option she sees is to remove here. So I have to show her that she can be here and be free of her pain and have her needs met. Well, the person who sees that versus the other is really going to experience that situation differently. And they're going to feel more empowered. They're going to feel stronger, right? They're going to feel better about what's going on. So that's the power of reframing. When she's not responding to your message, instead of going down this spiral of what is she doing, why is she asking, is she mad at me, is she with somebody else, all that, you can reframe it to saying like, oh, she's probably so impacted by the thought of talking to me because she cares about me so much that she's not able to respond to me right now, right? Because it's so hard for her to communicate me because she loves me so much. Now, a big thing with reframing, and I'll go deeper into this in the workbook, but a big thing about reframing is whatever is actually happening, your interpretation of it. So let's just take like the text message not responding to you. Whatever you're thinking about it, you're making up. You don't know objectively if it's true or not what's happening on the other side. So your mind is just making things up. So essentially reframing is allowing you, instead of making up the negative interpretation of events, because that's where our minds naturally go, it's actually programmed to go here for a survival mechanism, is instead of making up the negative interpretation, the negative possibilities of all that's happening, we're just going to make up the positive version of it. Because either way, we're making something up. So why not make up the thing that feel good? that makes you feel better and allows you to show up moving forward as the best version of you. Because like I said, beliefs are only there to empower or disempower. The negative interpretation will disempower you. The positive interpretation will empower you to show up. We have to stomp out the ants. That's thing one. Next is we have to create a bubble of support. So that just means you have to surround yourself with people who believe that you can have what you want, who support your efforts to do what you want. That can be family, that can be friends, that could be a men's group, that could be church, that could be whatever. You want people who are supporting you for what the goal that you want, not just supporting you and try and protect you and make you feel better, but supporting you to get the goal that you want. And they are lifting you up and encouraging you to believe that you can go out and do the things that you need to do to have the goal that you want. That is incredibly important. Inside the workbook, I'm also going to show you exactly how to shift that around for you too. We actually have 3 categories. We call them supporters, detractors, and protectors. So I'm going to show you how to categorize people into those different categories so that you can create your own bubble of support. And then lastly, you want to start and end in positivity. So what this means is you want to start your day from a positive place, having something inspirational, listening to something, visualizing your goal, whatever you have to do. Start your day with something positively setting you up to go out there and reach your goal. And you want to end your day, no matter what happened, in positivity as well. So you want to start and end, and this sets up the space in between to be more supportive and conducive for you, to encourage and nurture that belief. Because there's going to be so many things out there that's going to challenge that. You have to do the work of setting yourself up to be able to handle that and exceed it. And that's a really big deal. So yeah, you need to start and end your day in positivity. So if you follow this, if you switch to an internal goal, if you move for your pathways from experimenting to a plan that you believe in, a plan that gives you multiple pathways at that, and you do the work of empowering yourself and reinforcing your confidence and your belief by reframing, creating support, doing that positivity, then you will evolve from doubting to knowing. And this is kind of like a high level overview. Inside the workbook, I'll take you step by step through each one of these, so make sure you grab it. All right, in part 4, we're going to be talking about committing to excellence. And something you need to understand is for you to truly transform your marriage, it doesn't require you to just get a little better. It requires radical transformation. And that transformation requires a commitment to excellence. And by excellence, it's the total of your decisions, your habits, your small choices, your big choices, all the things that show up during the day that dictate how you show up as a man. And you have to raise that level and commit to raising that level to go far beyond anything that your wife expects of you, to truly stepping into the man that you're meant to be in this world. And you have to understand that success in saving your marriage comes from making better decisions every single day. And it's the compounding effect of making better decisions. And those better decisions come from a place of commitment. It comes from a place of discipline. It comes from a place of saying, I will be excellent. I will be the best version of me I can possibly be every single day. And we're not seeking perfection. You will never be perfect. I will never be perfect. She'll never be perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. We're seeking out being better. We're seeking out daily growth towards our goal or our ideal. That is what we're aiming for. You won't be perfect, and she's going to try to make you feel like you need to be perfect. You can't be, but you can keep getting better every day. And when you look back in weeks, months, years, you will feel like an entirely different human being. And there are 4 pillars of excellence that you must commit to if you're serious about saving your marriage. Pillar 1 is start your day with intention. Intention is power. Intention is your ability to say, I will do this and it will happen. That is that power of creator. That's the power of being a man, is to be able to will something into being. And that starts from a place of intention. And the way you start your day is the way you live your life. So what happens in the beginning of your day will dictate how the rest of the day will go. So by taking 10 minutes to set an intention of who you want to be, how you want to show up today, how you're going to respond and not react to your wife, how you're going to take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way, how you're going to commit to improving in the areas that you need to get better in, that will change the entire trajectory of your day. And if you do that every day, that will change the entire trajectory of your life. I cannot stress how important it is for you to start your day with intention. And that intention needs to be the man you want to be and how he shows up and the goal that he is striving for. That's pillar 1. Pillar number 2 is being impeccable with your word. In our society, we have created a terrible relationship with our word, especially men, where our word means essentially nothing. And that is a tragedy, because our word should be as good as gold. And part of the reason why you are where you are right now is because you have said many things and not followed through with those things. You said you would change before and you didn't change. And now that you are seeing the consequences of those actions, now you're ready to make those commitments. And that's great, right? It's better that you're doing it now than not at all. But understand, all those habits that led to you breaking your commitments before are still there, right? All those ways of negotiating with yourself or deprioritizing or rationalizations or justifications that you used in the past are still there. They're still lingering. It's just this panic and urgency that is keeping them down, but they can still rear their ugly heads. So it's incredibly important that you honor your word, that your word becomes your bond. And when you say you're going to do something, it gets done, and you develop a reputation and you become known for doing the things you say you're going to do. That is the start of excellence. So the third pillar is focusing on consistency, not intensity. And what happens is most men, they try to carpet bomb the situation. They try to do everything. They end up flooding her, pushing her away, and eventually they burn out. They're not able to commit to that level. Who can? Like, nobody can be super dad forever when you still have the pressures of your job and everything else happening. It just doesn't work. What I want you to do, instead of striving to be able to do everything, I want you to focus on doing the few things that really matter and do those consistently and make progress on those. And depending on how much time you have, right? Time is relative. So you may have to, consistency may mean over the next month, the next quarter, the next year, the next decade. It depends on what your situation requires. Well, consistency you're going to do regardless. But how you need to layer in the things and what things you need to work on will be a reflection of how much time you have, right? Less time, you have to hit more things deeper, which means you're going to have to be able to put more time into it. But you're still only focusing on the things that absolutely must and the things you can do consistently. So it's important that you don't flood. You focus on the things that you can do, the things you can commit to, and make sure you go deep on those things to the point where you're completely consistent. And if you're wondering what that looks like and you don't even know, okay, what are the things I really need to work on? That's okay. Here's the shortcut. Ask yourself, what do I want to be known for as a man? What do I want to be known for as a husband? What do I want to be known for as a father? Ask yourself those questions, and then ask yourself, what do I need to consistently do to be known for those things? And that will tell you your roadmap. And from that list that you create, just pick the biggest one, or maybe the top 3 things, and focus on being consistent in those areas every single day. And once you feel like that's just locked in, you're doing it, you're not even having to think about it, that's now who you become, bring in the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And when you start stacking those, you will become that man, you will become excellent. And lastly, pillar 4, which really goes into that even deeper, is you have to set high standards for yourself. Here is the reconciliation game at its core. Your wife has her standards of what she wants from a husband, what she wants from you. You have your standards of who you want to be as a man, how you want to show up, and the husband and the father that you want to be. When your standards become higher than her expectations, you are on the path of reconciliation. You're there. And then when you can be consistently at first hit these standards and consistently stay at those standards, you've won, right? That's how you win. As everything you hear is basically boils down to that. It's getting to standards that are higher than her expectations and being able to consistently live there. That's it in a nutshell. So the problem for most men is that they set low standards for themselves. And because they have low standards, they show up poorly. They show up and aren't able to meet their wives' needs. They aren't even really meet themselves, their own needs, right? And unfortunately, we have an epidemic in our society of settling for being less than what we can actually be. And that's a problem. And a lot of times it's because we're allowing ourselves to settle to our environment, to what's around us, to, oh, well, this is how my family's relationship was. Oh, all the friends' relationships are like that and they seem happy. Oh, everybody else is doing this, or I'm doing this better than all them, so it's okay. What's the problem? I'm doing way better than this person. Who cares, right? Why are you letting others dictate your standards? Your standards should be based on the man that you want to be, to fully becoming excellent. Because who strives for mediocre? I know deep in your soul you don't want to be mediocre. I know it. You wouldn't be watching this if you did. You wouldn't have made it this far if you did. You want to be excellent. So I'm talking to you right here, right now. Set higher standards for yourself. Set standards that scare you, but you know is what you need to do. That will change the game. And then commit to them. Commit to them and make it your goal every single day to live at that standard. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be challenging, and it's going to push against all your fears, your insecurities, your beliefs about yourself. And that's the point. It allows you to grow. It allows you to raise up to being the man you want to be. And if you become that man, regardless of whether your wife comes back or not, you will win. You will get your wife or something better. I can't think of something more worth it. I really can't. So that's pillar 4. That's section 4. If you want more support with this in the workbook, I'm going to walk you through how to do each one of these things. And if I sound like a broken record, because doing this workbook is going to 10x what you get from this. I know it, and it's free, and why wouldn't you do it? So that's part 4. Let's jump into the next one. All right, so that's the full framework on mindset. And if you go through this seriously, you do the work in the workbook, you will shift to knowing beyond a reasonable doubt that you can save your marriage, and you will be set up for success. You will be in the best possible position to actually turn this around, win your wife back, keep your family together. And if you hung with me this long, I want to reward you, because the mindset's great, but at some point in time, you have to know, what do I actually do? And there's a lot of tactics that people talk about. There's a lot of concepts and things like that. And that's great. But like I said, that easily leads to overwhelm. And if you really want to do this, you need a plan. So I'm going to give you a plan, and that plan is called our new story method. So what I'm about to show to you right now is our new story method. And this is a simplified version of the exact path that we take each client we work with. And what we've seen is the men who commit, take it seriously, do this work, 3 out of 4 of them are able to transform their marriage. And this is in the worst of the worst situations. And it works so well that we back it up with a guarantee. So any client that works with us, we tell them, if you do this and you still get a divorce, we'll cover up to $50,000 in legal fees. That's how serious we are, and that's how much confidence I have in this. And I say this because I want you to take this seriously. I want you to follow this plan. So let's start off with breaking down what is a story. And before we can dive into the new story method, we have to understand what a story is, because we have to be speaking the same language to be able to understand each other. So when I say a story, I define a story as a belief that creates a new reality. So when I talk about your wife's stories, I'm talking about a series of beliefs that she has that changes the way that she sees reality, which includes you. It changes the way she sees you, her life, the past. It changes everything. And these stories are what she's living in. And what we have to do to change this, create a more powerful story for her to live in, one that she wants to take on, which we'll talk about later. So when I'm talking about a story, that's what I'm referring to. And the most damaging story that your wife has, I call it the final story. This is the one that leads to divorce. It's a story that you can't change. Her needs can never be met. That's the most damaging story. And why is it? Because the second she feels that way, that's when the light switch flicks. And that's when you notice that giant change. And you probably started seeing her shift to this over time, and you started feeling like, okay, and then it just happened. Or maybe you got completely blindsided by it. But this is the belief that made that switch happen. And here's why it's so powerful. I fundamentally believe that relationships are a needs game, right? So relationship equals needs. And what I mean when I say this is when you and your wife first came together, you did so because you believed you were going to meet each other's needs. And you probably did in the beginning. And over time, you slowly stopped. And for a very long time, your wife has been feeling like her needs have not been met in this marriage. And frankly, you probably have too. But we're going to focus on her right now. And the thing you have to understand is, as people, when we experience our needs not being met, when we really want something and are deprived of it, we experience that as pain. We experience that as suffering. So your wife has been in pain for a very long time, probably years, maybe since the beginning, who knows. But at a certain point, she decided that she didn't want to experience that pain anymore. And that's what she brought up the wall, to protect her from that pain. And on the other side of that wall is a woman who feels hopeless, is a woman who feels like she can never experience her needs being met in this marriage, and this marriage will only be a source of more pain for her. That's why she's leaving. That's why she's shut down. She's trying to protect herself. And what ends up creating that wall is a series of beliefs about you, these stories that we talk about. So what we found is there's actually 7 stories of hopelessness that moves her into there. And when you can change these stories, really, when you can create new, bigger, and better stories, it brings your wife around her wall or over her wall or break through her wall. I've seen them all. But it brings her back into the marriage and moves her from hopelessness to hopefulness, right? And it's all by creating these new stories. So I'm going to walk you through the 7 stories of hopelessness that, once they're in place, will bring her to that story that you can't change, this marriage can't meet my needs. And I'll let you see which ones apply to your situation. And then I'll walk you step by step through how to change it. All right, let's start. So the first story is, I need space from you. And she's probably saying she needs that for healing, or she needs it to figure out what she wants, or for you guys to come back together, or whatever. But she's probably saying, I need space from you. And here's what makes it a story is, she doesn't need space from you. She needs space from the man you've been, and the man you're probably currently being in the marriage. If you showed up as the person she'd want to be with, a man who can meet her needs, she wouldn't want space from that person. So it's just a story. Story number 2 is, I can't let go of the pain you caused me, right? So there's all this past damage, all these things, both big and small, that have been stacking up and going unresolved. And it's been creating resentment between you and your wife. And that resentment is stopping you guys from connecting. And she realizes that she can never feel connected to you again with this pain in the way, and she doesn't know how to let go of it. And she definitely doesn't believe you can help her with it since you caused it. So that leads her to feel like, well, this is always going to be there, so we might as well end because we can never come back together, which is not true. We walked many, many clients and their wives through releasing the pains from the past. And we're talking about terrible, terrible pain. We're talking about like 10-year affairs. So it can be done. You just need the right tools. You need the right support. You need to be committed to doing it. And it actually comes later in the process, not in the beginning. So story number 3 is I don't feel safe with you. And usually this is emotional safety. Sometimes it's physical safety. If physical safety, fix that ASAP. But we're probably dealing with emotional safety. And that's primarily because you're being highly reactive. You're either shutting down, you're attacking, you're defending, you're criticizing, you're covertly blaming her. You're doing all the things that are taking away her feeling of safety that she can open up to you and not be attacked, which causes her to get defensive, causes her to shut down. And you have to solve. It's one of the first things we have to solve for almost every client is we have to address the reactivity because she'll never feel safe. And if she doesn't feel safe, why would she come closer to you? Why would she explore any meaningful conversation about the marriage if she doesn't feel safe? Right? It doesn't work. And that also includes you collapsing, you begging, you pleading, all those. That doesn't make her feel safe either. So that has to be changed. Number 4 is going to be I can't trust you. And likely, and we talked about it earlier in this course, is you've been time after time where you said you're going to do things and you didn't do it. And that leads to not having trust. But what I will say is trust is an incomplete statement. I don't trust you is an incomplete statement. The real statement is I don't trust you to do blank. And you have to figure out what that blank is for her. And then you have to start becoming known for doing those things, known for being a man who does that and does it consistently, right? Trust takes time to rebuild, but when you do the right things in the right order, you can accelerate this process. We actually have a system called our proactive needs system, which really shortcuts that. I'll probably do a separate course just on that because it's very extensive, but you can rebuild trust, and it starts with consistency. And it starts with realizing the thing that she feels most betrayed by. And you have to become rock solid on that thing. Number 5 is I feel like your mother. It's one usually stings the hardest for men, but I hear it time and time again. And it's because you're showing up as another dependent. Another person she has to look after, she has to take care of, not somebody who's taking care of her, right? This could be emotionally, this could be cleaning up after you. This could be trying to get you to do the basic things or teaching you how to do basic things around the house or going after you for not doing those types of things. It could just be your general boyish mentality around things. And unfortunately, because a lot of us grew up without fathers, or you grew up in environments where he wasn't absent or he had these same problems, we are boys trapped in men's bodies. And we have not evolved from boy psychology to man psychology. And that's the thing that has to happen if you're going to want to show up as somebody your wife believes can take care of her. So, gotta get that one taken care of. Number 6 is I can never be happy with you. This comes back to the needs, right? She's gone so long deprived of her needs being met that when she looks into the future, all she sees is more of that. She doesn't believe you have the capacity to meet her needs. And because of that, she doesn't see a future where she can be happy. Just like if you saw a future where your wife could never meet any of your needs, you probably wouldn't want to be with her either, right? You probably couldn't see yourself being happy either. So you have to create a compelling future. And that starts from her feeling good right now with you. Because she feels good right now, it's much easier to create a future or a picture in her mind where she can imagine things getting better. But if she feels like crap right now, most of you guys are trying to sell her on a vision where you can't even make her feel good right now, but you're trying to sell her a vision of a better future. Who would buy that? Who would believe that, right? If you worked at a company and everything was shit at that company, The employees were terrible. The customers were terrible. You weren't getting paid on time. Things were going complete disorder. The office was a mess and everything. And the boss comes in and is like, hey, we're going to create the best company in the world. You're going to be like, how? Why? I don't believe you're capable of that. Look at what we're in right now. It just doesn't make sense. But we're sitting here trying to sell her that vision where right now it's just a mess. So you have to get her feeling good right now with you, and then she can start believing in a better future. And belief number 7 is I do everything around here, because most of us have allowed our wives to become the person who takes care of everything in the house, right? The kids, the finances, the appointments, the schedules, everything. She's the leader of the house. And if she's a stay-at-home mom full-time, there's going to be more of her doing that. If you guys are both working a job, then that's just going to be a bad experience all around. There's a really great book out there called The Second Shift, which if this is you, I would highly recommend you taking a look at. And it really dives into this concept. But either way, you have to take leadership in the home. Doesn't mean you have to do everything. A lot of guys respond to this by trying to become like super dad. That doesn't work. Because 1, it's not sustainable. 2, she doesn't trust it. 3, she's going to believe that, well, if you could have been doing this the whole time, why haven't you? And she's going to get resentful and angry. So you have to take leadership in the home. You have to take on the mental load that she's carrying, or part of the mental load that she's carrying, so she feels like she's with a partner, not somebody who is basically turning her into a slave. All right. So those are the 7 stories of hopelessness. And there's more. But these are the main ones where if you can identify these and write the new story for these, we see major changes in how our clients' wives really start showing up and their willingness to step back into the marriage. Now, it's important to take a moment and say, like, it doesn't matter how many of these stories apply to you. One of these stories can lead her to that final story of you can't change, she can never be happy, depending on how bad it is for her. But this is really to guide you on the work that you need to do, is to focus your attention on what really needs to be changed here. And once you identify those, now you can begin writing a new story. So what I'm going to do is walk you step by step in like big picture how you go and write a new story. Now, obviously, I don't know your situation. I don't know the nuances of it. We would have to have a conversation for me to know that. But I'm going to give you the general framework. And if you really take the time to think through each one of these questions, you can develop your own plan that has a very high likelihood of succeeding. You'll have to do the execution. You'll have to follow through. You'll have to be consistent. But if you do it, yes, it will work. So let's go ahead and dig into how you write a new story. Now, step 1 is identifying what's her story. And we basically just did that. I gave you the list. You just have to pick what's the most damaging story there. What's her story? Why does she have that story? Right? So I want you to take that story. I want you to sit there and think. You can bullet point it. You can write it out, do whatever you need, and just write out like, hey, why does she have this story? Where are all the things that have happened in our past that have created to the story? What is she referring to? What thoughts are probably going on in her head thinking about this story? And once you have that, now you have a very clear picture of the problem. And if you can't define the problem, you can't create the solution. So you have to get a very clear definition of the problem and why she believes this story. And I completely forgot to mention, inside the workbook, I'm going to be taking you step by step through this. So you'll have all these questions here. And step 2 is going to be, how did you create this story? So remember, we're going from victim to creator. We don't want to be a victim of her story. We want to be the creator of her story. And we do this by taking radical responsibility. And we take responsibility by owning how we created this story for her. What were all of our contributions to this story? And you're going to make a list. You're going to write out, you're going to journal, you're going to reflect. How are all the ways that I contribute to the story? And the more you come up with, the more you can take responsibility. And the less you'll be showing up as a victim, the less you'll be blaming her, the less you'll be having any kind of covert passive aggressiveness or feelings of unfairness. You can take radical responsibility. And when you take responsibility, you can step into ownership. When you step into ownership, you can lead. When you lead, you can actually create a new story that she's willing to come into. All right, so it's important. You need to identify all the ways you help create the current story. Now, step 3 is going to be, what's the new story that you want to write? Because we're not just living in the past, we're creating a better, brighter future for both you and your wife. So what is the new story that you want to create? And identify that. This is your vision of your story. And if you don't know where you're going, how can you know how to get there? So you have to have the end. Remember we talked about hope? We have to have that goal. So what is the new story you want to write? If she believes that she does everything around here, the new story can be she feels like she has the best partner in the world, that he tag teams things with her, that he takes her share of the mental load, that he shows up for the children, he shows up and takes care of the finances. He leads the family as a unit to it. She knows that when she feels overwhelmed or stressed, she has you right there. She can give it to, and you're going to take it and you're going to do it confidently, and she can count on you no matter how busy, no matter how tired you are. That could be the story. Sounds like a pretty good story to me. So you have to know where you're going. So that's that step. Now, here's where it starts getting really fun and really exciting, at least to me. So the next step is, who do you have to become to be able to create that story? So we just listed all the things that you want to be able to create. Well, who do you have to become as a man to be able to create that story? And this is, like I said, where it gets really exciting to me because I'm a personal development junkie. But you need to go define that. So you look at each piece of what you want to create, the new story, look at every single piece of that, and then you translate that into, okay, who is the man who can create this piece? And step by step until you have a list of the man that you need to be to write a new story. And this creates the internal transformation, right? Because for her to trust this change, it has to be real. Real change is about you becoming better, not trying to win her back. And this is how you start to align your focus to the internal changes, because you know what you want to be, if not for your wife, for anyone, right? So you have to make these changes anyways. So let's focus on those, and she will benefit from it because you will now become a man who can create a better story. So that's what we have to do there. And you're going to make a list. And once you have that list, let's say that one of the things you want to do is take financial leadership. And you have to become a man who is confident with finance and who understands how the bills work and the money flows, who understands how to invest, save, build accounts, build wealth. Maybe those are what's on your list. Now, the next question is, what skills do you have to learn to become that man? Because the only reason you don't have confidence to do it now is because you don't have the competence to do it well. So develop the competence by developing the skills. So the skill might be, okay, I need to understand how to use budgeting tools. I need to understand how basic investments work. I need to understand 401ks, life insurance, wills, estates, you name it, equities, bonds, stocks, whatever. You have to learn those things. Or you have to develop the skill of finding the right person to manage all this for you. Right? You don't have to do it yourself. There are people out there who will do it for you. Maybe that's the skill you have to learn. Or maybe the skill is, I just need to learn how to use Excel. I need to learn how to use spreadsheets. I don't know what's going to be for you, but what skills are you going to learn? Or are you going to need to become the man who can create the vision? What skills do you have to learn to become the man who can create the story? That's fundamentally what we're doing. And you need to be very clear. And you want to be as concrete as possible, as tangible. So if you just say like, oh, I have to become better at making my wife feel safe. Yes, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. What you probably need to learn is, I need to learn how to have a conversation without getting defensive. I need to learn how to stop trying to fix things and just let her vent. I need to learn about what venting even means, right? I need to learn how to set boundaries for our marriage. Those are skills. The vision is I want to make her feel safe. The man is somebody who can make her feel safe. The skills are conversational or whatever is going to be in this scenario. So it's really important you identify those skills. And when you identify those skills, then you have to create a plan to learn those skills, right? So what's my plan to learn those skills? And this is where the rubber hits the road, because right now we're all in conceptual and it's easy. But now we actually what do we have to do? So maybe that's go out and read some books. Maybe it's some focused studying on YouTube. Maybe it's going to AI. Maybe it's talking to other people. I don't know. But you have to figure out a plan to actually learn the skills, or else you're just going to be floundering with a bunch of things that are nice to haves. And then the last one is, how do I guarantee consistency? Because you're doing all these new things, you're learning all these new things, you're going to be implementing these. How can you guarantee that you'll be consistent in doing it? What's going to be the accountability? What's going to be the support system? What's going to be the way to guarantee that you'll be consistent? So if we were talking about financial budgeting or something like that, maybe the way you do that is joining a financial group, right? A peer group of people who every week get together to talk about moving their finances forward. Maybe that creates consistency. Maybe it's working with a financial advisor. You have many options, but you need to set yourself up with a system that's going to guarantee consistency, right? Because what's easy to do is easy not to do. So it's incredibly important that you set yourself up for success and you set up guardrails so you can't fall off. Once you start, you have to make sure you're guaranteeing consistency. And this is a piece that everybody misses. I promise you. It's easy to overlook, but this is the part that actually makes the difference and builds that long-term trust back into the marriage, is by figuring out, how do I guarantee consistency? How do I make sure this always happens moving forward? Or how do I make sure this never happens again? Answer that question and you will not have trust issues. All right. So that is the system for creating a new story. You follow this, you do it, you repeat. And I recommend you only working on one story at a time. Take the most damaging story, go through this process. Because by definition, you are working on the most important part of the marriage. If you try to do this across the board all at once, it will not work. You will get overwhelmed. You will be doing a bunch of things half-assed, and it just won't make sense. So it's incredibly important that you do this and you pick the most damaging story, go through this process, start working on it. We made it to the end of this course, and the reason I designed this is to help men like yourself be able to really get into the mindset of becoming that intentional man, that man who knows what he's doing, knows that he can save his marriage, and is ready to go do the work. And the biggest gift you can give me is to actually go implement what I've shared with you today. And that's what the workbook is for. So please go grab the workbook. Last time I'm going to say it. The value that you got from it is completely free, right? There's no reason not to. But go through there and really start doing the work. And if you're looking at the end of this and you're like, oh my God, this is so much. I don't know. I don't know. This feels like too much. That's what we're here for, right? So if you feel like you want help saving your marriage, click the link below or go to authenticman.com and apply to see if what we do is going to make sense for you. But the honest truth is, most people watching this, I will never work with, I will never meet, I will never see. And that's okay, right? I created this to help as many men as possible, regardless of the situation. So I stress again, the biggest gift you can give is just by doing the work and committing to saving your marriage, because there's a lot of stuff going on in this world right now. There's a lot of things that are really broken. I don't believe families have to be one of them. I've seen so many times now where a wife was so ready to give up, was so far out the door, and because her husband stood up and said, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes, I'm going to be better, he was able to keep his family together. And to me, marriage is the foundation of a man's life. Like, if that's not working, nothing else you want to do really will. So is where you have to start, and you have to rebuild that foundation. And I believe you can do it. I truly do. I wouldn't have created this if I didn't, but you have to believe it. Right? I can't be more hopeful than you are. And this is why I created this, to help you have that rock solid hope that's going to support the change and the work that has to be done to actually turn this around. Because if you're watching this, there's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be hard. It's going to take everything you have, but you can do it. I promise. And if you want help doing it, like I said, you can reach out to us. Happy to work with you. Most people I can't. But if you're one of them, happy to do it. And I thank you. I thank you for giving me your time today. I thank you for watching the entirety of this course, because your time is valuable, especially in this situation. And the fact that you spent so much of it with me means a lot. It really does. And I hope that I reward that with valuable information, and you feel better at the end of this than you did at the start. And more than feeling better, you feel clearer. You feel like you have a plan. You feel like you know what to do. You feel like you are ready to go do what it takes to save your marriage. If that's how you feel at the end, it was all worth it. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you on my next video. Take care.